Luke, as you know, I
Yes.
sometimes have a Red Bull before the record because I want to be sort of on edge and anxious for the podcast.
Yeah, you do. You want to be fucking flurry of anxiety.
Because I think it's better with some amount of conflict.
Mm.
And today I was like, I've never had a Monster before. People drink Monsters, don't they? You know, sort of weird, horrible people that you see on the street.
Well, that's quite a judgment of a large percentage of the population, but yes, I guess.
Who is it that drinks Monster? I want to know who I'm being offensive
I reckon Keir Starmer drinks a lot of Monster.
to. I don't believe that you believe that.
Why?
Which celebrity do you think drinks the most Monster?
Probably Kanye West. Actually.
Kanye West. I can imagine him drinking Monster. But I feel like when you get those sort of, maybe not him. I was going to say like celebrities beyond a certain point, they just only have really healthy stuff.
Oh, I know who drinks Monster. Is all the UFC guys.
Yeah.
They pretend to after every match. I don't think they actually do though.
No, probably not. It's not really a health thing, is it?
I don't think it's
So
healthy.
anyway, I've got a Monster, and I'm not very proud of this. I don't know. I just if I saw someone, if I was like choosing who to be friends with at a party, and I saw someone drinking a Monster, I wouldn't be like drawn to them particularly.
No, you think it's a lot of computer games and BO.
Yeah, but maybe I'm being judgmental. Maybe they're delicious and lovely.
I'm attracted to the flavor of Ultra Paradise.
So this is the first thing. Yeah, I went for Ultra Paradise flavor, which elephant in the room is not a flavor. Okay, I don't really know what it is. So I got it. I gave it the benefit of the doubt, and I was like, maybe it's Ultra Paradise. Maybe it means like tropical.
Yes.
Right. Had a quick look. Where is paradise? A chalet on the slopes? A streamside ranch? Or a penthouse in the city? How about a private island? So basically, it's not that. It's not saying tropical paradise. It's just saying the concept of paradise.
That's good. Get it in you.
So this basically is like ultra delicious. It's like ultra amazing flavor.
It tastes like heaven.
Yeah. What is... I don't know if I love that or if I hate that.
Well, drink it.
If I got like some sweets and I looked at the flavor and they were like, these are lovely flavor.
I don't know. I'd be
How
up
would you
for this.
feel?
Like, this is heaven and coming flavor. Put
Okay,
it in your mouth.
Let's get a bit of Monster ASMR going. You gotta love the sound. You gotta love the sound. Okay. Smelling notes on the Monster. This is gonna be the whole podcast.
A
strong smell of
sommeliers for energy drinks.
a strong smell of sort of kind of like apple sweeties, but like but like also cum. I'm getting apple sweeties and cum.
But that's right. Like
You want to see?
heaven-
Can you smell that and see if you agree with?
Paradise? I would be annoyed if I got to paradise and there was no coming.
Yeah, I don't know if you want it to smell of cum.
Oh, it does smell like apple cum. That's insane. There's a bit of... There's like a...
I'm not sure if our sniffing sounds are going to be particularly lovely to
There's
listen
a sort
to.
of like gasoline element to that as well.
Yeah, definitely
Subtle.
subtle gasoline. Right.
Yeah.
Let's give it a go.
Mm.
Ooh. Oh, it's sour.
Yeah.
It literally tastes of like you know those sweets. Oh boy. One sip this is already doing something to
You just
One
entered
sip.
paradise.
Do you remember those sweets you could get called brain liquors?
Yeah.
And it was like a vial of like radioactive liquid, and then over the top of it was like a rollerball deodorant ball thing.
Yeah.
So you couldn't get directly to the liquid because the liquid was too powerful. You had to lick a plastic ball, which would allow them to deliver about like 10 milligrams of the stuff at a time, because that's all you could.
All a
that's all you
child could
do.
legally handle.
This tastes like I've been able to go straight to the source for that. Oh man, it is like. Will you ever taste?
I'll have a taste.
Luke can't deal with, really anything, so he's going to struggle with this. But it is like.
Oh, what? No, that tastes like that just tastes like apple drops.
What's apple drops?
Those sweets that were like called apple drops.
I don't know.
And then it's like bitter afterwards.
It's really sweet and yet has no sugar in. I just like, it's mad. Like, surely this must be for children. Like, I'm drinking this and I'm like, I can't imagine.
Well, it's like for
An
school
adult
kids. It's like
being
for
into
secondary school kids, no?
I mean, it literally says may have an adverse effect on activity and attention in children.
Well, I like that.
Not recommended for children, pregnant or breastfeeding women, or people sensitive to caffeine.
Oh, no.
God, it's really, it's quite, and I would say it's basically quite disgusting.
Yeah.
I think if I was 12, I would really like it.
Yeah. I think that's across the board. You just nailed energy drinks.
Yeah. Ugh.
What about if you're on a big night out in Ibiza?
See, I think even,
You want to...
I guess to be fair, this would probably be more powerful than Red Bull in like a Jaeger bomb. If you wanted to cover up the flavour of Jaeger in a Jaeger bomb.
Did you ever go to Thailand and drink the M150?
I have not been to Thailand. What is the M150?
M150 is like an illegal energy drink here because it's too dangerous for your heart.
Okay.
It gets you fucked up.
What's so dangerous? Is it just loads
It's just
of caffeine?
so much caffeine, yeah.
God, this is. I'm gonna have another sip because I want to be. This is for the fans of the podcast.
Yeah, you good.
This is to put me in a good. I'm gonna drink my medicine. I'm not enjoying it, but it'll make for more fun for you.
This is behind the scenes. How you get okay at podcasting.
Oh my God, it's actually making me feel quite sick.
Yeah.
Anyway, Luke, how's your week been?
Yeah, my week's been good. I had a good week.
Yeah. What's that? What's happening? What's going
Can't
on?
remember what I've done.
No.
I watched that show, which I love, Devil's Plan.
Devil's
South
Plan.
Korean board game challenge show. Love it.
So my problem with the Devil's Plan and the Genius, which it is based on, is like
What's the
it
Genius?
should be.
That's what it's based on.
Yeah, there's another South Korean reality TV show called The Genius, which you could only watch illegally, was never released internationally. The Devil's Plan is like basically a remake with some slightly different rules, but it's on Netflix, so you can actually watch it.
Sick.
And because I'm a big board game nerd, I feel like it should be my favorite show ever. And it kind of nearly, like, at its best, it's amazing, but there is an awful lot of like just slowly explaining some really complicated
Oh my
rules.
god! Yeah. It's definitely the one downfall is it spent 12 minutes explaining rules
Yeah.
at one point, and the episodes are an hour and a half.
I believe,
and it's all in South Korean, so you're reading it.
yeah.
And you're sort of like, some of the rules you don't even get. You're just sort of like, I think I vaguely understand.
And the people playing the games don't get them either. They're just like, okay.
Not all
And
of
then they
them.
start
Some
playing
of
them.
do. Some of them really get it quick. But that's the whole point of the game, is like you're supposed to test them, right? Be like, very quickly give them new rules and try and figure it all out.
Right, yeah. I just feel like it's not, they haven't optimized the way of doing, like, I feel like either the rules should be graspable or they should be sort of slowly revealed somehow. But the sitting and watching literally a 10-minute rules explanation in, like, I think episode 1 of season 1 of The Devil's Plan has like a 7.5 minute just, you will all be drawing 4 cards. Each card has a possibility of one of 4 different animal types. And it's like, I don't know. I've taught a lot of board games, and 7 minutes for the general public is like a long time for consistent attention.
I sort of don't mind it. It takes on a sort of ASMR quality to me.
Yeah.
It's quite comforting. And you don't actually have to know that much what's going on, because when they actually play it, you're just sort of going on their reactions.
You figure it out, yeah.
Yeah, kind of. And they do nice little breakdowns where they're like, so-and-so has this in their hand, which means this is going to happen on the next go if he doesn't do that. Like, I think they do a good job of breaking that down. But I do agree with you. There is some long exposition stuff that is like not to everyone's cup of tea. But I love watching it in comparison to the traitors, which I just find like it makes everyone on the traitors look so thick. Like, they can't even spell their names correctly.
Yeah.
These like actual like proper genius people are coming in doing the most complex math modeling against the most like difficult high pressure games ever.
So I do like that it's like they choose genuinely they try and choose smart people.
Yeah,
to
and the
be in
traitor's
game.
just like, I don't think it's Jenny because she's wearing red today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're like, okay, wow. They're interviewing them. You're like, this is so painful.
So the thing that the genius did that I've not seen enough of The Devil's Plan. You have to tell me if it does this.
Okay.
But the thing that was like when it worked in the genius was amazing. Is they would something like they'd be playing a game. So each episode they're playing a different game, and the games are sort of, if you play a lot of board games and like social deduction games and stuff, you'll recognize some of these games. But they're all quite different. Some of them will be more sort of logic-y games. Some of them will be more kind of social based.
And some just maths straight up.
Yeah, pretty much
Poker stats sort of things.
Yeah. But the thing that would happen in the genius is you'd get to a point in the game and something would happen that like goes against everything that you thought was happening. Like someone suddenly gets a load of points and you're like, what? How did they get those points? Or someone does something that you previously thought was impossible and you're like, what? And then it will play this mad music and it will like go back in time to show you
it's like
the characters.
It's like Ocean's 11.
It's like Ocean's 11.
Board games.
Yeah. Watching them figure out a strategy, like go off into a different room earlier in the program that they didn't show you.
Yeah.
And then like there's one where in the genius where I think like someone drinks something that you like think has poison in it in the game, so you think they're going to die, and then you find out that they've actually, it cuts back to them like swapping the liquid out in another vial and something like that. And then there's one in a earlier season of the genius as well where these people have to like play this game basically of luck where they hold up a card and you say like, yes, you do want it. No, you don't want it. And everyone's doing really badly. And this one guy comes up and just does it perfectly. He's like, I want that. It's a good card. I don't want that. That was a shit card. I want that. And like, he seems to know, and everyone's like losing their minds. And then it cuts back to him figuring out that there's really subtle markings on the backs of the cards that you can use to figure out what's actually on them. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but it's like, I basically don't like the show, but the show has these occasional moments that are unlike anything else I see on TV, and I feel like it's worth it for those moments.
Yeah, it's sort of like a big investment for a big payoff. Because the finale of the first season, I was like, what? Insane! And they're literally just guessing numbers. But it does create such insanely tense TV. I'd say season 2, they just played the best game so far, which was, there's 6 of them, and all they have to do is they put their hand in a box, and they have to hold down a button. And whoever holds down the button for the most amount of time wins that round.
Right.
But you have a total time of 10 minutes. So you can't hold down the button across all your goes. For longer than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's like they're all bluffing each other. So there's say things like, oh, why are you holding the button? And some of them are literally like tensing their arm to make it seem like they're holding down the button.
Yeah.
When they're not. And you see it as like some of them get lots of early wins. And then some people are like, they suddenly will start freaking out and they don't know who's holding on to the time. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
That sounds good. I might give it another go. I find it hard, like, in the episodes like 90 minutes long or something. Some of them.
They're long, yeah. But it's also, I would love it to be, I'd love to see like an English or American version of it, just so that you can understand.
Wait, so you're not aware of this?
What?
An English version of it is currently airing.
Is it? What's it called?
The Genius Game, which is based on the original format, The Genius, is currently airing on ITV and is getting absolutely panned by the press. Now, I've not watched it yet, and so I don't know which of the two reasons it's getting panned. Either they're trying to basically do the original version but in English, which obviously British people are going to be too thick to understand. Like, this is a show that most people
would not
watch.
ITV, is that really?
Oh yeah, and the ITV viewers insane. David Tennant's hosting it. So either that, or they've done like a really dumbed down version of it for ITV, and then it just lost what's interesting about it. Like, it so clearly was not going to work.
Yeah, I guess also South Korea culturally is like so education heavy. As a country, it's like it's like culture, like everyone smashes school, otherwise you're a freak.
Yeah. I think there's also like there's a kind of, in certain Asian countries, or at least not in the UK and not in certain Western countries, there's like a pride in intellectualism, and people want to be seen as smart and bettering themselves and whatever. And I think British people will just be like, "What is this? I don't understand this. This is stupid."
We want the fit dum-dums.
Yeah. Like, it's probably not as bad as America, but it's close, I imagine.
I mean, could you imagine South Korea making Too Hot to Handle? Be like, this is the #1 show in the UK and USA. But one thing I do love about the Devil's Plan, which I guess is probably in the case of the Genius, is that you end up having like these meta games going on.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about winning the current game. They've got to think about alliances for the future and stuff like that. So you get people sort of tactically losing or being like, I'll give all my victory points to you if you help me now.
Right.
And then they can just stab them in the back horrifically or choose to honor the alliance.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah,
it's so good.
That's good. That's good fun.
And because they're all smart enough to understand all the implications of everything, it makes it so much better. Whereas, again, like the traitors I just find so annoying because it's just so random. It's just idiots going on.
Well, the thing is,
they're trying to work something out that's impossible to work out.
There is no game for the traitors, so they just like the actual game is so paper thin that they just have to invent all this.
And it's so pointless, all the tasks they do in between. They're like, you've got to row a boat to the island and get the thing, and it like adds money to their cash prize, but it doesn't in any way interact with
they have in recent seasons tried to do like a bit more with that, so they've given like the traitors kind of reasons why they would want to complete the task in a different way and things like that. It's getting slightly better, but like the interestingness of the game mechanics of like Genius and the Devil's Plan is so much better. There's also a really interesting thing, which is that and you get this in pretty much any Korean reality show or game show, is social hierarchies, particularly around age, are such a big thing that it's like you are supposed to be subservient to anyone older than you. And it's so weird because you're playing these games where you're like supposed to be kind of betraying people and like fucking people over in a way that like we would have absolutely no problem doing in the West.
Get in the care home, you old fuck.
But they're like, oh, I literally can't betray this guy because he's older than me, and it would be too impolite.
No, you see, it happens in season 1.
Yeah.
That someone puts like an older lady in jail, and she's the weakest player by far. It's like the right tactical move, and they're all like, oh, I can't believe he'd do that to her. She's so respected. And he's like, he's ruthless. Whereas here, you'd be like, that was just logically the correct move in terms of protecting his team.
Yeah.
That's also one thing that is frustrating. That is kind of why I wanted it sort of in an English context. There's some subtext that you just don't get because you're like, I'm not 100% sure if this is a like Korean sensibility that I'm just not quite fleshing out, or I don't know. So it'd just be interesting. But I would not be surprised if the English public were like, fuck this show, it's shit.
Yeah. I do kind of wish that I do like the Korean shows. I do like the Devil's Plan, but I still feel like it's not quite. There's something about the Korean reality shows, like Physical 100.
I love Physical 100.
Is good, but like the like first like 70 minutes of the first episode is like them all walking into a room and really slowly meeting each other. And I guess, to be fair, you have to meet 100 contestants, and that takes a while.
I was going to say, the problem of actually having 100 contestants becomes quite clear. I
don't know if it's just that TikTok's destroyed my brain and I have no attention span, but I do feel like some of these shows could get a bit of a move on
also,
sometimes.
when it's like, okay, we've met the 100. What's the first challenge? All these 100 people will be hanging from the ceiling for as long as possible. Oh, they can all hang there for hours each because they're the most physically impressive people you've met.
It's a really impressive editing job that they managed to make that interesting.
I feel so bad for me and Michael when we were watching. We were talking about that. The editing guys must be, because they have to create a narrative out of something that probably doesn't have a narrative.
Yeah.
And it's hours of footage, like whole days.
I would really love there to be a sort of Devil's Plan type experience that you could go and play with your friends.
Oh, like a weekend away.
Something like that. Maybe that'll be my big business plan, is I'll make that.
It'd be like high-end escape rooms.
I've done the Crystal Maze experience. That was really fun.
Yeah.
There's
Do you like escape rooms? Done escape
I actually
rooms?
do really like escape rooms.
Yeah.
And I also stayed in a castle for my friend's 30th birthday and designed an escape room for the castle, which I then got about 5 groups of people to do. And I'm just going to say it was brilliant.
My God, you're the devil.
so
You're the
good.
devil behind Devil's Plan.
It was, I had so many good clues.
Yeah.
There was one clue I did in the escape room. You had to, there was a guy, there were photos of this guy around, and under one of them was his email address, and somewhere it was like, oh, tell this guy this certain thing, and if you emailed him, if you genuinely emailed the guy's email with a certain phrase,
Yeah.
then I'd set it up to like auto reply, and then he was like, oh, thank you, and would email like the next clue.
Oh, that's so good.
It's good stuff.
That's so good.
If anyone wants to like pay me loads of money to do that for them in some
ITV,
way,
get this guy on The Genius.
I would love that.
This
I
nerd
genuinely
boy.
think if someone was like, do you want to come and design like a really complicated board gamey show sort of thing for TV, but you have to quit stand up and never do it again, I'd go, yeah, sure, I'll do that immediately.
I've been waiting for this call.
I do like stand up, but like
You do love board games more. I mean, look at
do
there's
like
100
board
board
games
games
a
over
lot.
there.
that's like only a little bit of my collection.
I know. I like it. I like it about you.
Anyway, that's The Devil's Plan.
Yeah,
Shall I
what
say
have you
what I've been
watched?
watching?
Go on.
I've watched a couple of things. I've watched the first half of the second series of The Rehearsal with Nathan Fielder. I've talked about Nathan and The Rehearsal, I think, a bit on this show before. I think it's probably my favorite show ever.
That's pretty great.
So The Rehearsal, the concept of The Rehearsal, at least in season 1, is Nathan Fielder, this sort of comedian who's kind of in character, kind of not. It's hard to explain. Goes and finds people who want to prepare for certain scenarios, and allows them to prepare for it by creating like a perfect rehearsal where he invests millions of pounds of HBO's budget to like completely recreate locations and hire actors to like. So like the first episode is like a guy who wants to tell someone on his pub quiz team that he didn't actually go to university, and he like hires someone to. I don't know. The premise of the show is insane, right? None of it really. There's a logic to all of it, but it's all deranged. Nathan acts as though everything he's doing is kind of normal and makes sense, but it's all like a twisted leap of logic. And in season 2, it gets even more twisted, and it just so quickly goes insane. Season 2 is about how lots of airline flights are caused by miscommunication between the pilot and the co-pilot. So it starts off with a sort of quite reasonable thing where Nathan's like, oh, I want to allow pilots and co-pilots to rehearse for being in a difficult situation so that they can learn to communicate, so that if they are ever actually in this situation, then they can deal with it correctly. But it just quite quickly, all I'll say is in episode 3, there is a moment where Nathan Fielder is dressed as a baby, choking on milk being fired out of a giant woman's tit. And all this is somehow supposed to be linking back somehow to preparing pilots for flying. It's so meta. It's so self-referential. It entirely feels like Synecdoche, New York. Yeah. There's quite a lot of stuff in episode 2. There's a whole scene where he's like rehearsing something with an actor, and he's like, oh, instead of like doing the lines I've given you, why don't you just say how you like really feel about the situation? And the actor gives this perfect criticism of Nathan Fielder, completely like explains everything that's kind of wrong and fucked up about what he's doing. Season 1 also ended in this incredibly like self-critical way. It's just I don't even know.
It's like the next evolution of like Ali G and Borat and that sort of that type of comedy, I feel, but it adds this like surreal, surreal self-referential layer to it, which isn't in any. That's not really in Ali G or Borat, but it's got that same like it illuminates like I don't know how people think and societal taboos in like such a naked way.
It's doing so much, and it does reveal quite sort of serious, interesting things about people.
He's sort of somehow made them touching, right? Because I haven't seen the Rehearsal, but I've seen where they did the first version of Rehearsal in the feature length Nathan For You,
the Finding Francis.
And it's so touching parts of that. So, like it genuinely makes you cry, and like you feel like you understand this completely isolated weirdo. In this kind of tragic. Tragic way.
I find it hard to talk about in some ways because it's the Rehearsal almost is sort of, and this is touched upon in the show itself, but almost is kind of beyond comedy at this point. Like it is really funny, but it's the main intention doesn't seem to be funny anymore. I've been finding myself getting like just moved by how creative it is. Just like seeing someone do something so absolutely like specific and unique and weird is like I just find totally mesmerizing. And we actually got friends over to watch the last couple of episodes in a big group, and everyone was just sitting there like with their jaws on the floor, like stunned. It's mad. There's nothing like it. It's very much me. It's sort of the epitome of the kind of things that I like. But I think that
emotionally investigative with a huge heart.
Anyone that if you're likely to turn on a new HBO show and go, well, this is a bit weird, then maybe it wouldn't be for that person. But for almost anyone else,
I think most people I've watched most people I know who've watched it have been really pretty blown away. Even if they haven't loved it, they'll be like, it's probably one of the best things made. Just like you were saying, from a creative standpoint, it's such an achievement.
And
because it's almost not really satire, is it? It's like you'd sort of expect something like that to be a satire, but it's so much more earnest than that and innocent. I don't know, even though it's manipulative. it's
both incredibly earnest and also like absolutely none of it is serious for 1 second either. Like it's this I think maybe I could write an essay about it, but like just talking about it in front on the podcast right now, I find it very hard to put my thoughts into a coherent like pattern.
Do you think it's also...
it sends me? It feels like being on psychedelics watching it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Do you think it's also like it could only be made in this sort of era where there's like such a blurring of reality and sort of fabricated life, sort of media life?
I think I wouldn't say it can only be made now, but I think the thing now of like people living their lives online and people having weird characters of themselves and misinformation going around and whatever, like I think all these things are part of it in a way and considered, but I think it also has this but I think beyond that it has like a timelessness that I'd be very surprised if I didn't still love the show 50 years from now. Like, I love The White Lotus, but I could very easily imagine when I'm older looking back and going, oh, I was wrong about that. That was a load of shit.
I think that's how I felt about Brass Eye. I found was weirdly comes back into... It weirdly sort of goes quiet for a while, then comes back into being a really relevant show that's like critiquing the way we consume media.
I mean, Brass Eye is particularly insane because it is like so specifically it should not have aged well at all.
No,
because it's about like, oh, this is this is what the news media is like right now, and these are the things we're talking about right now, and they have like MPs on it from the time that you don't remember, and yet it's just so brilliant.
You see like
it
a
transcends
young
all of that.
Noel Edmonds on it. And in many ways was sort of the precursor to all the sort of like Ali G, Borat sort of characters interacting with the public in a sort of sneaky way. But yeah, it's crazy when like fake news came out. It was suddenly like, oh, this is the same thing again.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And
also stretching what comedy is. It's like, okay, this isn't even, it is hilarious, but it's actually like deeply saying something so disturbing about humanity.
Oh God, yeah. It makes, when I go on stage and do a joke about, putting the bins out or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I go and watch like, Nathan Fielder trying to entirely recreate someone's life for some it makes me feel bad about myself. I feel like I'm like I've gone to like the school science fair and I've done like a fucking baking soda volcano and the guy next to me's like created life in a vacuum,
created a new element.
yeah
No, it's so true.
And I just so hope that he keeps getting funding for it and that it does well enough. My understanding is it's not a huge financial success.
Well, this is what's sad about these kind of shows is like, it's the same with Brasseye got cancelled because people thought it was real, which is insane.
Right.
People are like, this news show is bad. Like, you
is that why it got cancelled?
It got so many complaints from the, I think it was the Peter
Petergeddon was the most complained show episode ever.
I think it still is, and then they freaked out.
I don't think
endured.
that's because people thought it was real. I think that's because it was an hour-long comedy show about paedophilia.
Well, so it sounds like there is an argument that it's like, we need to stop fussing about paedophiles.
Yeah, I mean,
but that's where satire gets blurry in terms of like what it's actually trying to say. But it's just, it was. But no, people did think it was real. There were complaints about it. People just did not clock it was a piss take because it's so borderline.
That's wild. If you've not seen Petergeddon, you should go and watch. Petergeddon is one of my favorite things on TV ever.
I'd agree.
As well. It's
my favorite show.
Incredible. That's the Rehearsal. You should all watch it. The fact that you haven't watched it, Luke, I'm ashamed of you, and you should watch it.
I'm sorry. I have time.
You have time.
I don't have time.
Okay, good. Thanks for correcting yourself there. I've watched another thing which I'll mention briefly. New thriller, which has been quite popular on streaming, called Drop, which is directed by Christopher Landon, who made Happy Death Day and Freaky, a couple of horror films recently based on Freaky Friday and Groundhog Day, which I enjoyed both of them quite a lot. They were quite good fun. Drop is a new single location thriller a la something like Phone Booth, or we got a lot of these like single location thrillers in the noughties.
The Hateful Eight.
I guess so. I more think of, I mean, A, I've not seen The Hateful Eight, and B, I more think of these as like one or two people are like trapped in like a specific weird location, rather than just like a film all set in one house or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Like there's the is it Ryan Reynolds in Buried, where he's buried underground for 90 minutes. And that's like surprisingly good. Anyway, Drop is about a woman on a date in a restaurant, and
I saw the trailer for this.
Yeah, she starts getting airdrops on her phone from seemingly someone at the restaurant with them, who starts sending her creepy messages, which escalate as it goes on, and to the point where they're sort of saying, "I'm going to kill you," and things like that. Maybe, I don't know if they even do say that, but it is very silly, very preposterous thriller that is nearly quite good, but is not.
Okay. I was going to say, the trailer looked awful.
Okay. I would say, basically, my problem with this film is, it's like, you're not expecting it to be like Oscar-worthy cinema, right? It's like a silly thriller about someone getting threatening airdrops and them dealing with that scenario. What I found was that it just... I think it's quite like a scary premise that they could have like got quite a sort of uncomfortable, spooky film out of, just horrible things like appearing on your phone and you not knowing who's sending them or why or whatever. That is quite like a scary thing to imagine. What I think the film did is it kept having to like up the stakes and up the drama and up the action and the thrills more and more, to the point where it just very quickly got really silly and ends in like big over the top action, and it's just a dumb movie that it puts a lot of work into explaining why everything has to happen the way it does. It puts a lot of work into explaining why the woman can't just call the police or do all these things. Despite all the work, it still fails. I'm still like, and they do explain why she can't just call the police. They do explain why she can't just leave the restaurant. Even with all the explanation and that they put in, I'm like, I still would just call the police. I still would just leave. I still would just tell...
Or was there someone being like, don't call the police, and then you do it, and then it just turns out they're bluffing, and it's like, oh, yeah. Of course they're not a super secret spy who can block police signals.
And I think it just... It tries too hard, and by the end of the movie, I lost interest and wasn't really engaged with what was going on. I'm kind of curious to go back and watch Phone Booth now, because I saw that as a teenager.
I remember Phone Booth being good.
I really loved Phone Booth. I kind of wonder now if I watched it back whether
Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell, yeah.
Shot in the ear.
Yeah.
But that was a really simple premise, I remember.
It's very simple.
You can't leave because I'll shoot you.
And it's a very feels like a very slow build up.
Yeah.
And also I just think we hadn't really seen, it was like, for me, the first of those like single location thrillers that I'd seen that had this really obvious like kind of claustrophobia to it.
It's so scary rewatching something you liked as a teenager, isn't it?
Yeah, but I find it really moving when I rewatch something and it's still good. Well, I kind of like connected to myself as a young person.
Oh, this is why I love
that first inspired me.
RoboCop and Starship Troopers, both by Paul Verhoeven. Because you watch them as a teenager and you're like, oh, they're just action movies with tits and hyper violence, whatever. And then you rewatch it as an adult and you're like, oh my god, it's a critical satire of 80s culture and militarism and all this stuff. And it's like, I've just watched two movies in the same movie. This is incredible. Love it.
I think I get that almost the most with just The Simpsons. I'd watch when I was 7 or 8 and be like, "This is great," and then
so silly.
Every time I rewatch it now,
for some reason, so many episodes make me cry.
For some reason, when I rewatch them now, I kind of think, "Oh, it's probably actually not that good, is it?" The Simpsons. It can't be that good, and then I'll watch a couple of episodes and I'll be like, "This is absolutely phenomenal."
Yeah,
like,
the golden run in that specific era of like the early seasons
is so
insane.
Great. Anyway, Drop gets very, very silly.
You've just reminded me. I've watched a similar movie to this. I watched M. Night Shyamalan's recent movie. Was it Trapped?
Trap.
Yeah. Did you watch that?
I watched that. I thought it wasn't great.
I thought it was fucking awful. I hate M. Night Shyamalan in general. I think it's the worst of all his traits put together.
Yeah. So Trap is even more extreme than in Drop. Just
really?
Like Trap is more extreme than Drop.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Good. It's gonna be like that would be fucking effort.
It's just like so many stupid jumps in plot. And what I find...
But why does he get so much money?
Well, people like his movies.
Do they? But they're all fucking terrible.
Well, people go and see his movies. I don't know how much they like them. But I guess there's sort of like a... there's a sort of unpretentiousness. It's just like, here's just a mad, silly premise that people will be excited to see, and then the movie's kind of shit and forgettable afterwards.
I guess, maybe.
But he
but
they're
not even like
tempting
fun.
premises.
They're not even like fun. I like Signs. I think Signs is good. But they're like not even fun in the moment either.
The Sixth Sense is fantastic.
Yeah, Sixth Sense is also good.
Yeah.
But other than that, he's made trash after trash.
The thing that I find hard with movies like a lot of M. Night Shyamalan's films and this movie with Drop is like the things that I see as like plot holes, the moments in the film where I just go, oh, I don't believe that, and it takes me out of it. I feel like these must be evident in the script, right? It's not like most of the time it's not that I don't believe that the performance that the actor's giving. Most of the time it's like that wouldn't happen. They wouldn't do that. And it just must be so clear from...
What you mean when you see a character acting like not like a person? It's like is acting. The script is just dictating that something happens to move stakes rather than anyone reacting realistically.
Yeah, exactly. And I just... it feels like these things must be so evident so early on in the filmmaking process. And I just wonder, like, are these people just going, well, all we really care about is like drama and scenes that
set piece scenes.
That we just don't care if it feels believable or not. And when I speak to people, that's like one of the number one things. It's probably the number one thing in like horror and thriller movies that make it not enjoyable. Like I went out with someone once who liked the idea of horror films, but basically couldn't watch them because she got so annoyed at every character decision in every horror film. And there's so few horror films where people are doing smart things or what you believe people would actually do in those scenarios. And it just feels to me like you wouldn't get to the end of the film and then realize that someone wouldn't do that. You're writing the script and you go, oh yeah, this is obviously stupid.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Maybe they're just really difficult to write. I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure they're tough, but you know, when you've got millions of dollars of budget behind you, you'd have thought someone could fucking crack the code.
I don't know, yeah. But then you see, because like, I'd say one of the best horror, or one of my favorite horror movies is The Thing. I think The Thing is so good for the reason.
The Thing is famous for being one of the only horror movies where people actually make smart decisions.
Yeah. And it's like they really get together and like communicate and whatever, and it falls apart piece by piece, not really thanks to their being glaringly stupid.
Yeah, they're just in the worst situation imaginable.
Yeah, and it's great. But that film failed. Like, it wasn't profitable.
Yeah.
It was a huge flop and then became a cult success later. So, I mean, maybe these movies just don't make money at the cinemas. So they're like, all right, whenever they get that script, they're like, oh, box office poison.
Yeah.
Like, let's get M. Night Shyamalan to do something, do another spooky twist on something for no reason, and people go watch it.
Yes, maybe, but also like, there's no reason that any of that needs to change the like marketing of the film. Like, I still think you could, you know, these movies where characters make sort of smart and interesting and believable decisions, you could still market them as crazy, wacky, and over the top. I don't, you know, it doesn't have to affect the trailer, so I don't know why it would impact people going to see them. I don't know. Anyway, if you like those single location thrillers, like Drop is not the worst one I've seen. There's a lot of absolute shit out there. But I came away disappointed. And yeah, it's got some alright performances. The main lady in it, the main lady.
Oh yeah, so good you couldn't remember
it. Is I genuinely can't remember her name, but she's the woman in season 2 of White Lotus who is married to that man who's name I can't remember. The sort of blonde lady who's got a horrible husband who
well, maybe their performances are so good they just disappeared into the character.
Yes.
Can you remember the character's name?
No. I don't know if the characters in Drop even had names.
Drop Lady.
It's funny you bring up Trap. It actually it sort of ends in quite a similar way in some ways.
I fucking hated Trap. It made me so angry.
If you are listening to this and you know any kind of thriller movies in the last few years, the last 10 years, let's say, with a very simple premise, but really smartly done, write in.
We'll watch
because I'm so desperate to see, like, if you're like 90-minute thriller movie, 3 or 4 characters, 1 or 2 locations, simple, engaging situation they got to get out of. They act in smart ways to get out of it.
Warfare?
Warfare's a war movie. Warfare doesn't count.
Location,
also, Warfare's not like how are they going to get. Warfare's kind of is just like action. There's no one makes any smart. There's not really decisions being made in Warfare. You're just kind of watching.
There's
some decisions like, do we leave the house?
Protocol,
Do we
guess,
whatever?
yeah.
But you're not going, oh, should they do this? Should they not do this? You're just like, fuck, don't get shot.
Yeah.
Fuck, don't die.
I think it's also different because they're all trained, so it's like a slightly different. This is their job going to plan, essentially. Whereas like the kind of thriller you're talking about is like someone way over their head.
Yeah,
it's like an ordinary person in an extraordinary situation. Whereas this is like, okay, this is what soldiers go through. And it sucks, but this is
I'm not
within the norm.
I'm not saying it has
job.
to be. I'm not talking about. I'm not even saying it has to be kind of realistic. It can be silly. The only one that comes to mind slightly for me is a movie called Time Crimes, which is from maybe like 2008 or something, which is like 3 or 4 actors, low budget Spanish movie, just very clever, tightly written, kind of. Thrillery sci-fi movie, and I also think like quite funny. And I think if you can add some comedy in, then you can maybe get away more with these people doing dumb stuff. But
sorry,
that's all right. Your throat made a good noise.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, straight into the microphone.
Anyway, I think I've been talking too long.
Let's talk about our main movie, eh?
Enough stuff. Let's talk about our main movie.
The Birdeater.
Birdeater.
Cheep, cheep, cheep.
Which is a new Australian horror ?
Yes, big question mark.
Film by a debut writer-director team of like Jim and Tom or something. What are they called?
I can't remember.
It's 2 Australian dudes.
I didn't know it was their first movie.
It's their first movie.
All right.
I could have guessed.
Wow.
The premise of Birdeater is a couple who are due to be wed, Louis and Irene, go on Louis' stag do or
Bucks holiday.
Bucks something.
Bucks holiday, I think. It's called.
I know these were Bucks holiday.
What it's called? Bucks.
It's called like a Bucks something.
Bucks. Yeah, Bucks.
Buck do.
Bucks are like male deers, right?
Yeah. Like a stag.
Moo.
Moo?
I don't know.
They go. Louis like, oh, let's be feminists. You can come on my stag do. She goes on a stag do. It's like laddie lad time. The bride to be Irene and one other woman who comes a bit uncomfortable with the laddiness of it, and then it kind of goes off the rails. Sort of does it? I don't know. What do you think of the film, Luke?
I have mixed feelings about it.
You had mixed feelings about it.
There's bits I quite liked about it. I liked that it was. I mean, yeah. I guess it's not a horror movie.
How would you describe this film?
I mean, there's like one scene in it where I felt there was like a feeling of horror to it, which I actually thought was one of the best bits of the movie. But it to be honest, to me, what it really felt like was a very sort of toned down version of like a Yorgos Lanthimos movie. But
okay,
I
thought you were going to maybe say Midsommar, which is a vibe that I got from it a few times.
Really, yeah, there was a sense of tension the whole time, but it felt kind of. I kept expecting it to go wildly off the rails in terms of like someone's about to murder everyone, or pick them off one by one, and it didn't do that, which I was glad it didn't.
I would say it is. It's described in a lot of places as a horror movie. I will like be like, I 100% don't think this is a horror movie. No. To the point that I would say this isn't quite true, like but almost no one is in any danger at any point in the film.
It's a drama.
I think
it's more like a drama, really.
Yeah, I think it just is a drama with some kind of horror and thriller,
horror stylings,
like stylistic choices, but
spooky music.
Yeah.
But yeah, I sort of felt it. I didn't think it was really bad. I really didn't, because there were bits that really grasped. I thought when I was watching the first 10 minutes, I was like, oh, I'm not convinced by this. I think this is going to be a really tacky sort of shit psychological horror, and he just seems bad. Their relationship just seems bad, and I think I know where it's going.
Yeah.
And then it sort of played, but then I really enjoyed scenes like I liked the montages of their Buck's holiday. I thought they were really good, and they sort of started unearthing sort of male I don't know, men in the modern world still behaving really badly, but like putting it through this more like feminist perspective. Some of the dialogue I found unintentionally funny, I think.
Yeah.
And I couldn't work out whether they were trying to be funny or not. And it sort of felt a bit hit and miss for me. But then that also created a sense of tension for me that was a bit like, oh, I actually don't know where this movie's going. Mm-hmm. And I felt that way right up until the end, which I think was a good thing.
Right.
Because it kept me locked in.
I don't think the movie knew where it was going.
Quite possibly.
That's what it felt to me.
But that's sort of like, if it wraps up well and that's the feeling you've had the whole way, then it's good. But if it doesn't wrap up well, it's sort of like, it just feels a bit unfocused and confused.
So what did you get? So the things you liked about the movie, what did you like? The sort of the kind of social commentary on masculinity and relationships and that kind of thing?
I guess. I mean, I was sort of hoping it was just going to be an understated sort of exploration of someone's relationship and be quite grounded. You know, something like what was that film, The Worst Person in the World?
Right.
I was hoping it was going to go in that sort of direction, because not a huge amount happens in that film. It's just you're sort of following someone through their 30s for a year or two, and it's hugely affecting and really good. Whereas, and this I was sort of like, oh, maybe they're just going to explore their relationship and the complexities of control and love and guilt and all these different feelings, but it doesn't quite go deep enough into that. And then, it is a little bit confused. But there's some scenes that I think are really great, and I like that they're sort of left open to interpretation somewhat, and you could sort of, decide what you felt about characters on your own. Like, I imagine people are going to be split about how certain characters behave and whether they're good people or not.
Right. Yes.
But I could understand why people would also say it's unfocused and a mess.
Yeah.
Which I don't think's wrong.
Yes, I don't think it's wrong either. My opinion is this film is unfocused and a mess, and it is a bad film.
Right. Okay.
That's what I think about it. I think this film didn't work for me on really any level.
Okay.
I was frustrated by it. Something that has been annoying me lots in films recently is the dialogue, and I think the dialogue in this film is weird and baffling.
Yeah.
So many scenes of dialogue, it like almost felt like it'd been like wrongly translated from a different language. So many scenes of characters talking to each other.
I've got a TV. I can watch what I want. Where would I get a coffee, mate? Where would I get a coffee, mate? Where would I get a coffee, mate? Where would I get a coffee? He says it 5 times.
Does he?
Yeah.
It's so weird, and it like I don't understand why it's so weird. Like some of it, like the example you're saying there, maybe is just trying to create a weird vibe, trying to freak you out because the movie thinks it's a horror. But a lot of it just feels like, hang on, none of this is how anyone in the world would ever talk to each other.
Well, this is
so
why
I'm totally taken out of it.
This is why I sort of went for like Yorgos Lanthimos sort of feel to it, where which is like very heightened but bizarre, but you can really tell what it's going for.
Yeah, I love Yorgos Lanthimos. Yeah. Yorgos Lanthimos, almost to the extent of someone like Wes Anderson, has a really specific like vision, and like it's so clear that he is doing exactly what he wants.
You know which bits are funny, which bits are disturbing, which bits are scary. Like
this is. I was just like, sorry, is this just written by someone who can't speak English very well, or has never had a normal conversation, or what's going on here?
Well, part of me was hesitant because also some of it was like, is this just Australian translations? Is this how Aussies talk in a way that I'm like just not used to?
I don't think it was that. I don't really know why it was. I genuinely, when I was watching it, I was just like, this is bad This is just badly written dialogue. Maybe there was more intent to it that just failed to come through for me.
Yeah.
But that, I mean, just immediately made the film like a pain to watch for me. Then we have two female characters who are entirely underdeveloped, have no real like personality, are not written in any interesting ways at all. They're just there to be sort of victims of the men. Totally disinteresting to me. Then we've got this whole, like, the film seems to be trying to do two things, and they're both like actively at war with each other. On one level, it's about like the psychological and emotional abuse of this. The man Louis is like being bad to his fiancée Irene in ways that become increasingly clear throughout the movie. And I like, one part of the movie seems to be like how bad is he being, and is he like a monster, and kind of questioning that. And that seemed like quite an interesting thing for a film to be about, this kind of like sort of bad abusive boyfriend, but like, is he really being abusive? And like, she's not saying he's being abusive. And that I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was, and like then I was hoping it would sort of become just an exploration of a deeply toxic relationship.
Yeah.
But you somehow have sympathy for how they've all ended up there,
Right.
or like at least an understanding of the complexity of it, rather than it just being like, he's a cartoonish evil villain.
Yeah, but then it also, and I suppose this is related, right? Because it's both about toxic masculinity, but then it kind of ends up being a lot of the film is about like what guys are like on stag do's and making your friend drink when he doesn't want to.
Yeah.
And my problem with that is like in that side of the story, the main guy Louis is like the victim of these like toxic masculine stag do traditions, right? And in the other thing, the abuse kind of side of the storyline, he's clearly like the aggressor, the antagonist, the perpetrator. And I'm like, so what am I supposed to be thinking or feeling about this? And you know, maybe a really smart film could like keep both of the, like keep you really the tension between those two things could be really interesting. But I found they just like got in the way to each other, and I was just like, well, what's the film doing? What's it saying? And then it all feels like it's going to build to a big scary conclusion. It feels like the characters are about to start like killing each other or something, which doesn't happen at all. And it kind of ends, and I'm not giving anything away here, but with a big, long, sort of spooky nightmare dream-like sequence, which really feels like, something out of like a fucking David Lynch or some movie like that. And it feels like some fucking cult members are about to come out and start killing everyone. I really thought something mad like that was going to happen, but it just kind of
ends.
It just ends, and it seems completely meaningless. And then they wake up and they're like, well, that was what happened last night. That was sort of weird. And then a couple of other things happen and the movie ends, and there's some stuff is left ambiguous. I was just like, what is this film doing? What does it want me to think? I've found all the characters really frustrating. There's a guy who's supposed to be like the ultra laddie,
Dylan,
a guy who's trying to make people drink all the time. He's like just insane. He's just like, every scene of him in the film, you'll only be able to see if you're watching on YouTube, but he's kind of like staring like bug-eyed, like he's about to like freak out and like murder someone at all times.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's going on? Why are they friends with this guy? What's happening? And then there's stuff that starts coming out about people having slept with someone. I could barely even follow that when that started happening.
Also, they invited like some guy they're not friends with who they thought slept with the bride.
Yeah.
And they were like, but also there's no understanding of why he's there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's really confused because he's obviously going to stir shit up.
It is
like,
really
why
confusing.
did you invite this guy to your fucking stag? Like,
exactly.
Obviously a bad idea.
Exactly.
Why did you invite any of the women to the stag do as well? You're all fucking awful.
And there's just so much stuff that I'm just like, what? How is this decision made in this movie?
Yeah, I feel like there's grains of like good ideas though, because to me the idea of like a horror stag do is a great premise.
Oh yeah,
easy sort of horror stuff. Not even like easy, but I'm just like that could just be great, and like examining the whole thing of like peer pressure and men or whatever. But in that context, like I probably want it just guys just doing the most sort of stag thing, and it all going horribly wrong.
There's the seed of I think several great movies in this,
and like I like the scene, and I'd say it's the only scene that really feels sort of like properly horror, where they kidnap him. Where they suddenly take him away.
They're like they grab the stag, kidnap, but they like grab the stag and tie him up in the car
or put
whatever.
him in a gimp mask, and it's got such a sense of like this is such a bad idea.
Yeah,
and it's like no one wants it, but they're all doing it anyway, and it's got this sort of like fatalism to the whole scene where I'm like, oh, this could have been great if it was in the right movie.
And that's the thing, like,
and I like the dreamlike thing because they've all, they're all on drugs and whatever.
Yeah,
and it's all really surreal, but it doesn't really pay off. It's not in service to anything. Yeah, it's just sort of like, oh, this is a good isolated scene.
it makes you realize, like, and I get. Something you almost never see in movies, and I think the reason you almost never see it in movies is because it's bad and annoying, is like they set characters up in a situation where like something really bad is obviously going to happen, and then nothing bad happens. It's like they're making such bad decisions and you're going, oh no, what's going to happen on? And then like there's not really any serious consequences. And then there's just loads of really tiny little things that annoyed me, and I was like, what the fuck throughout the movie? One of the characters is... So his friend Charlie, right? He's supposed to be like Christian right?
Virgin. Yeah.
And he's like the most like normal, maybe not normal, but he's like a laddie Australian bloke on the stag do, and he's like, yeah, I'm a virgin, guys. Mate, I'm a virgin. I've never had sex with anyone. And it sort of ends up being slightly related to the story, but it was so weird.
I had in my notes. I had, I think that guy's a virgin.
Yeah. He goes, I'm a virgin. And it's like, maybe in like an I think you should leave sketch or something. Yeah. It's quite funny just for how surreal it is. But it's utterly like, my girlfriend and I would just look at each other like, why? Is this really happening? Yeah. Is this really a scene in the film?
But there's like so many subplots in it that are just like, you could have dropped these or... whatever. Like also there's like the whole implication, maybe this is a spoiler, I don't know, like with the Dylan guy there's a whole implication that he's gay but like, I mean, very much implied. It's like it's not explicit, and then he runs away and you're like huh. Like that was not unpacked properly at all, because like the only suggestion is him putting his finger through his like trousers to suggest he might be gay, and you're like, okay, and you don't really get the sense he's got any like repressed homosexuality in him until the final scene, and you're like, there was no breadcrumbing towards this. Like this has just come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Which is like, like interesting plot point potentially, but not, because he's not really indicated anything to be that way. Or like grappling with it, nothing. Like,
yes,
he could have easily been a gay character and have been like, yeah, he is gay, it's fine.
And I think all that stuff was happening in a point in the movie where I started to realize that all of these things they were giving us weren't really amounting to anything. Yeah, and I know movies really lost me when it's sort of introducing something new or trying to resolve something, and I'm just going, well, I just don't even give a shit at this point. just whatever you wanted to like.
I did like the. There were moments I like the paranoia scene.
Yeah,
I
I'd
thought
say
the
that was
paranoia
a scene that it could have been better, but was still quite fun.
Yeah.
So that's a game which I've played a version of in real life and is horrible.
Yeah, it's awful.
But
how to fall out with your friends.
yeah, it's like you are in a group and someone whispers a question to their neighbor, and that person has to choose someone in the group that it's the answer to. Like, who here's the most fat? And then you point at someone, and then the person either does or doesn't find out what the question was. So you're like freaking out, wondering what the question was.
But it's such a good scene for a stag going wrong.
Yeah.
It's such a good, and like I mean I hated that they revealed that Dylan was intentionally working it. I thought it should have just been left that you're like, has he worked it or not?
It was it sort of builds and builds in that scene, but again, like almost everything in this film didn't really amount to anything or lead to a big climax.
Would you say it's sort of stylistically good, but actually bad script?
I'd say bad script. I'd say I actually didn't think the performances were great either, if I'm honest.
And I had some highlights for that. The scene where there's two really hilarious scenes with Dylan, where there's one where he's looking out. He's just been told off by Louis for being too laddie. And he's looking out at the water like he's thinking something really deep and profound.
Yeah.
Louis finds him and he goes, "Ever been skydiving, Louis?"
Yeah. And I don't know. The performances, maybe it was just them. Maybe it was the sort of weird direction. Maybe you're right and they were trying to do like a fucking freaky Yorgos Lanthimos kind of thing. But it just came across as like stilted and unrealistic.
I also love when they said, "Dylan, stop embarrassing yourself in front of the adults," and then Dylan storms away and kicks something like a child.
Yeah. I'd say like stylistically it was decent. There's some nice shots. There's a shot of someone like whispering in someone's ear, I think in the paranoia scene, which looks pretty cool. But I mean, it's nowhere near stylish enough for the film just to be a vibe.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes there's films like this where it's like, yeah, the plot didn't make any sense and the characters were underdeveloped and whatever, but it was a vibe. Yeah, and I can maybe see some people saying it about this, but
it reminded me of that. What's that Nicolas Cage horror movie where they kill his girlfriend and then he like just has a chainsaw battle with them?
I don't know.
Mandy? Yeah.
Mandy.
That was a vibe.
Yeah, but that's very clearly like the whole thing is shot in with like one color grading thing.
What a vibe.
Yeah, but at least people die in that.
Yeah, this is an exciting movie.
Come on,
bonkers.
We need people to die in our films. I don't know if I even particularly. I mean, we probably have spoiled quite a lot of it. I'm just seeing if I've got. Oh yeah, is this a horror film about being in a K-hole? This was my one of my notes. Yeah, drugs and the place of drugs also are like quite a big part of this movie, and yet I don't really know what it's actually saying about them.
Yeah, because I thought the most interesting plot point would have been what I thought was most interesting was, and I guess are we just going spoilers on this whole thing now?
Okay, we're now officially in spoilers.
Yeah. Okay, so the whole thing of like Louis controlling and weird is muddied by the fact that she ran him over in the past.
Yeah, and it's like she's guilty about having run him over.
Yeah.
And he's got his scar is the most...
Oh, it's so gross.
So gross and not realistic at all. It's like so clearly like drawn on by someone.
But I thought that was I was like, okay, this is where the bare bones of like an interesting toxic relationship can be. Because it's like, you can sort of be sympathetic to him in that position because she was kind of being like, you know, flirting with some other guy and like the suggestions she's using him for a visa or something. You're like, okay, he's deeply insecure. Then they sort of have complicitly got into this horrendous sort of doping relationship, but is also controlling her anxiety.
So he's basically feeding her sedatives.
Yeah,
and
which she's kind of willingly taking.
Yeah, it's kind of unclear.
Yeah.
first of all, how much consent there is from her, and also how much she kind of understands the ramifications of that. There's another thing I found annoying is it's like her character is just totally just like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I guess she is doped out the whole movie, isn't she?
Yeah. And then the groom, Louis, is like, yeah, maybe don't mention to everyone that I like force feed you lion tranquilizers every day. And she's like, why? And he's like, just maybe don't mention it. She's like, huh. And then she immediately brings it up at dinner in front of everyone.
Yeah.
And they're all like, that's fucked. And she's like, what? What do you mean? And it's like, I know women in abusive relationships are maybe a bit brainwashed or whatever, but like, I don't know. I feel like they could have made it a bit more subtle somehow.
Yeah, I agree. It does suffer from that thing which we were talking about of like forcing characters to do stuff because the script demands it, rather than it being a natural unfolding of
right
character dynamics or whatever. Yeah, and also there's that whole fucking bit where they basically say that he raped her, and all his friends knew, and it never gets mentioned again.
Oh, what, when they first
in his speech
met?
Yeah. And Dylan does this big speech where he's basically like, oh yeah, he just got her really drunk and then slept with her when she was like semi-conscious.
Right.
And nothing happens of the back of that. And there's so many characters who would have a problem with that, mainly her ex-lover or whatever, and the other girl there, and neither of them challenge him on it in any deep, proper way. It's like insane.
I guess if I'm going to give the film the benefit of the doubt briefly, which I feel like I haven't done much so far, it's like maybe it's sort of being like toxic masculine people are going to keep being toxic masculine, abusers are going to keep on abusing. Like they're, you know, there's not necessarily going to end in people dying. It's just going to end on these like
unresolved
on these toxic traditions carrying on. But
which I think is an acceptable place for it to conclude if it had been a really strong analysis of that kind of relationship.
But I don't think it had really like
hadn't earned that ending.
Apart from it just being kind of uncomfortable, it didn't leave you coming away from it going like, oh God, no, this is going to carry on.
Yeah,
like weirdly. Spoilers for season 1 of White Lotus, but end of season 1 of White Lotus like has Alex Daddario's character. You think the whole season she's gonna split up with her partner, and then at the end she stays with him,
right?
And you're like, oh no, of course she's gonna stay with him, and like of course these cycles are gonna continue. But this film just like doesn't set up your expectations well enough for the like inevitability of these continuations of these cycles of abuse and toxic masculinity to really like hit home emotionally for you as a viewer. Like it,
but it wasn't even clear that was. I mean, I was going to ask you about the ending because part of me was like, is she thinking about running him over?
I thought she was thinking of getting on the boat and leaving without him.
Right
at the end.
Yeah.
And I didn't think it was. This could have been. I could have been wrong. I didn't think it was like she was going to kill him. I thought it was she was going to leave. But is she going to leave? But at the end, she doesn't move, so it looks like probably not.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I didn't care at that point. I was like, well, you seem to quite like getting drugged. It was even Phantom Thread, which is actually one of my least favorite Paul Thomas Anderson films, but is still like that does something really interesting where it's playing with this dynamic of this sort of what is basically, I won't spoil it, but what is basically like abuse, but by the end of the movie, the woman is kind of accepting it as part of the relationship. Like it's just this like
Stockholm
fucked up dynamic. Sort of yeah. But then also in a way that like she's almost culpable, but who knows? This I just, I just didn't. It didn't feel like it was realistic, and nor did it feel like it was giving us insight into these like particularly like fucked up people.
Yeah.
it was just
Well, sort of,
I was
yeah,
just
because
frustrated.
I gotta say, I found like myself ping ponging between what I felt about Louis, because I felt by the end I was like, oh, he's a full villain when he has that conversation with his Christian mate, and he's like, you can come out on top of this, you can work it, which is just like, in my opinion, it's like, oh, he's admitting that he's leveraged getting hit by the car as a way to control his girlfriend, so he's a control manipulative fuck.
Yeah.
But yeah, then you're right. There's all this like pressure from his friend earlier, where you're sort of like asked to sympathize with him, and I don't know. It doesn't come across as nuanced.
The way you have nuanced characters is to have nuanced characters. Yeah. It's not to have a character be horrible in one scene and then in the next scene have something horrible happen to them. Like it's that the ping ponging that you said. Like you need actual. Yeah, these characters were unnuanced, but would just happen to like flip back and forth from scene to scene in the way that they were behaving and in how awful they were being.
They were all so bad at eating. Did you notice that?
In what way?
Oh, just so many shots of like, there was that celebrant guy when he's like just coughs up his chicken because he's taking ketamine, which doesn't fucking happen when you take ketamine. Then he's trying to pull his fucking nose goo out.
Oh, I thought he was, when that started, I thought he was pulling like an alien out of his nose, and I was like, yes, alien film.
Weird shit.
I thought, genuinely, I was so excited that something was going to happen, and I was like, oh no, it's just snot.
Yeah, I thought they'd all taken like bad pills, and then they were all going to start murdering each other. And then there was a fucking scene of like the Christian virgin trying to eat cornflakes, and he like puts 3 in his mouth. He's got like 5 cornflakes on his bowl, and then like 3 of them just fall out his mouth, and he gets milk on his chin. I'm just like, stop eating badly. Really off-putting.
Was he on ketamine when he was eating?
No, it was in the morning. I was like, you could eat now. It's just really annoying.
Probably on a come down.
Well.
So, Luke, big fan of the film. I thought it was rubbish.
I like scenes in it. Yeah.
I would. This was. I feel like I probably am being quite harsh, and I would like, if you told me these filmmakers were making another movie, I'd be interested to see it, because I think they have some interesting ideas and there was cool stuff in it. I just feel like as a cohesive whole, it didn't work for me at all, sadly.
Yeah. I always have mixed feelings about a movie like that if it's sort of like independent and newer people. You're sort of like, I don't want to shit on it, because you never know whether their creativity is going to blossom into something. Really, really amazing.
I know it's like, I have an easy. It
was like we're talking about what's his face, the guy who did Long Legs. Like really close to making some of the best movies.
Yeah. Osgood Perkins.
Yeah.
I'd be. Well, I hope they don't listen to this podcast and give up filmmaking.
The power we hold. With our 3 listeners.
I'm trying to think what is like. Is there a movie with similar vibes that I would recommend more? For some reason, there's that movie's coming to mind. That I think is it David Cronenberg's son. I don't know. Fucking who cares? Whatever.
Let's end. Let's end.
Let's end the book. Got that out.
Bye.
We'll
end like the movie ended.
we're just staring into the camera. Bye.
Bye.